All right, let's do a little bit of a recap here. Let me set my transition over here. All right, you guys should be able to see my screen. You should be able to see me. Good. All right, so we have done Unit 4 now of the Linux admin course. We've done Unit 4 of the security engineering course. We've recorded those. Those are all up there. You guys have access to them. That stuff's all being run out of the Discord. So let me link the Discord to anybody that wants it. And there's how you get access in there. And we have almost 4,000 people in there, so it's getting pretty big. We're hitting 3,900 here soon. So, the goal of our group officially is to get you guys that are doing this stuff as amateurs into doing this stuff professionally, right? There's kind of a negative connotation in the English language, at least in the American English, with like an amateur is not as good as a pro. Well, that's not true. An amateur can be very good at something. They're just not getting paid for it. And we want to take you guys that are doing this stuff for fun and help you guys find out a path to make, a living at it if you want. Especially if you enjoy doing this stuff for fun. Like, I mean, you might as well do something that's kind of fun in a work context, right? So, all right, so we're going to look at, we'll do a little bit of a recap. I'll show you guys some of the stuff that we did this week. Oh, sorry, I'm yawning. And then we'll do a little bit of, we'll do some labs. We might even make a lab today because there was an idea for a new lab that somebody gave me, and I was like, oh, I can do that. It'd be kind of fun to play around with that kind of lab like that. So, again, we're just kind of hanging out. If you guys have questions, I'll be a little more responsive now than I was in the course because I was trying to just record the course and make sure that was good. And then we'll go from there. So while I'm waiting for people, I need to get something up in my home lab that's down still. So I have something that's still down and not working. So I need to get this working real quick. I thought that I had these working, but apparently not. So and then so we got the registry running. I turn that on. Oh. Okay, so that's running internally. And then I need to, so our images that we have are the PLS. Okay, good. So let's go back to Scott then, and then let's kubectl get deployments. Delete, remove. Delete. You can never delete or remove. All right, and then -v2, and then we're going to redeploy. Okay, it doesn't have any endpoints yet, but when it builds, it'll hopefully get to that properly. Nope, those are still busted. So why are those still busted? Because that's definitely... there's definitely something happening here where this system no longer sees that image. The image is definitely there though. Firewall shouldn't matter, but we're still going to check. And it's 5,000 being shared. Yeah. Huh. Image is there. Yeah, coffee. I'm trying to get the last little part up that I didn't turn up. Atavirk, they're all up. They're all fine. I got to turn this. This is the Kubernetes cluster. I didn't finish getting it back up because the way the pods pull, they pull from a local registry, and I think the local registry just it hadn't been. Here's the steps. So where's our build? Whoops, what the hell? Oh man. Oh, is that not? I don't even know what the hell that means. Literally never seen that before. Never seen that error before. I don't use a lot of Podman like that, but let's push. History. Let's go find where we tag it and push it up, which should be right here. Tag. And then our last one is right here. Podman push. Oh, we might have to rerun the registry. Oh, the freaking name's already in use, so Podman. So it sees that. It's not running. I literally don't care what the name is. I don't care what the name is. I care that I can push to it. Like I literally don't care what the name of the fucking thing is inside of Podman. I mean, they name them weird things like cherry apple and stuff. They just do, you know, whatever. So, anyways, how's it going, Mumlesh? We're just hanging out and not working too hard. We did our recording earlier, and now we're just kind of hanging out. Everything's slow and nonsense. Yeah, Colorman. It takes a long time. Everything happens slower in a corporation because they're trying to be very, very precise about things and not make errors. That's why I tell people, like, I got asked one time in an ITIL class. They were asking everybody around the room what do you want to get out of ITIL, and my answer, the guy said he thought it was very honest. I think it's very honest, but my answer was, I just want to learn enough of this process to be able to surf over the top of it and not to just be like churning down in the waves of it, because I hate when processes slow me down as an engineer. Therefore, I will learn the process enough to just kind of glide over the top of it. I'm not going to sit there. Like, I don't let things sit around and bug me. I like just figure out how to do the bare minimum of them to keep doing engineering all day and not have to worry about whatever nonsense is going on. So, kubectl, get deployments, kubectl, delete, deployment, ProLUG, website, v2, and then we're going to redeploy with this, right? Where's he at? There. Recreate that. Give it a second. Now the website's gonna be back up. Jeez. All right. So now we test the closest jump to the website, which is us local. We can test right here. ProLUG.asuscom.com on port 8080. Yep, website's back up. And then we test the ProLUG for everybody else, which is now back up as well. So we got the website back up. Then we got, should be able to see. If any of you guys are interested, it's just prolug.org, and that's the course. The courses that we've been running are the Enterprise Linux Administration. That's a 16-week course. We're about 4 weeks into that one, and then we've got the Linux Security Engineering course as well, and we're 4 weeks into that one too. We just recorded the fourth one a little over an hour ago here or something. So if anybody wants to do those courses, they're free in our Discord. If you do them with the group, you get a cool little cert, and Treasure makes the certs, and then you can actually verify. You can actually put the little thing in you can actually put this line in there, and when you verify that, you could put that directly on a resume, or there's a little QR code that he makes too for this hash, and it'll take you here, and it'll prove that you were the person who, in my case, ran the course. But for anybody else, like, let's go like Trevor. If we wanted to verify that he had done the course, he did the course. So for people that kind of want that stuff. And that's, I mean, it's, if you have nothing in your resume, it's at least something, right? And we got the website back up now because I just had to get it working on the Kubernetes side of things. So that's how we do that. See if I can get over in Werewolf. Oh, well, not from here. Only from here. I think I got to go over there as Scott at Werewolf, and then I jump in. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's kind of what we've been working on. The unexpected power outage of our system yesterday took everything down, but we got it back up. The unexpected power outage was wife related. She decided to just unplug something in my office, and I wasn't in there to protect it, so she got it. And I told her not to do that again, because those are all the servers. But it's a little half rack of servers that she just pulled the plug on for seemingly no reason. She's literally never done that before in like all the years I've known her. All right, anyway, so we got a bunch of labs we can do. I updated labs earlier this month. We could go into STIG remediation and go look at that kind of stuff if we want. Yeah, it was just a half rack. Yeah, not a whole. Well, it was the whole half rack, I guess, if that matters. But I put a new lab up yesterday for you guys to play with. This is in our Discord as well. There are, we have 60-something labs, almost 70 labs now for you guys to play with if you're interested in doing that kind of stuff. Also, some of you guys were around the other day when I started playing my little game. I'm still playing that little game. It's a little time waster. It's a pretty fun one. So that's still running in the background. Somebody asked me the other day. They asked me yesterday. They said, "Hey, you've been on playing that game for like 3 days plus now." And I said, "Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's a time waster. You don't turn it off." Go more wisdom, and then yeah, we're just playing video games in the background. This isn't really what we do around here, but it's also, you know, we're fine with gaming if we need to. What else do we have? The course is running. You just go to ProLUG projects and you find all the course stuff. So there's lots to do with the course, lots of discussions to get involved with if you want. There's a beginner start here section, which will get you into, you know, the playlist for the sysadmin course, and then the playlist for the security engineering course if you need to go into any of that stuff. Colorman, you said everything is in pieces. I need to merge them. This is definitely not engineering. Well, yeah, I mean, you're in the hacking phase of it, but hopefully once you get it all hacked together and then documented, it'll look good. It'll look like engineering when you're all done with it. What's in the food section here? Somebody, oh yeah, look at that. Somebody's making some nice ribeye or roast rib and ribeye. Okay. There you go. There's a bunch of people in our Discord that are real big on like smoking stuff. That's what I had last night for dinner. Yeah, and then Robodom's been selling everybody on these beef and cheese burrito what did I say? Bean and cheese burritos. I don't know. I don't know what that thing said. Bean and cheese burritos. He makes a whole bunch of them. So, all right. Anyways, let's get out of there. Let's go look at something. Let's go make sure that all of our system is good. Korean barbecue and soju yesterday. Nice. $50, not bad. Yeah. You know what? So I had Korean barbecue a couple weekends ago. We were out in California doing I was out there with a bunch of my friends doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I'm torn on a Korean barbecue. One, I don't want to cook everything, but it is pretty tasty. Like, if one of the guys at the table is just like, oh, yeah, hey, I love these things, I want to cook, I'd be like, okay, yeah, here, go ahead. That was kind of cool, because we had a guy who goes to Korean barbecue, so he wanted to cook the stuff. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll just eat whatever you give me. And that's pretty much all you can eat. So if you guys have ever been for one of those, yeah, Hayes, that's 100% true. The other one, the ones that I prefer going to is like the big Brazilian barbecues. I don't know if any of you guys have ever gone to one of those, but there's a couple of them in Arizona here. One's a chain. It's called Fogo de Chao, and then the other one is I don't actually know its name, but it's like right over here by me. And me and the wife will go there. We'll go there like once every 6 months or something. But it's like we go in a little early, so we beat like the huge dinner rush. And then they just keep coming to your table and giving you, like, they just bring meat to the table on big like skewers, and they just cut it right on the plate. It's insanity how much food you eat there. But it's all like meat, so you get like the meat sweats and stuff. It's pretty wild. Your friend had the idea of grilling the shiitake mushrooms. Yeah, we were doing so. The way my friend that was doing it with us did, he used like the onion over the grill to kind of, I don't know, I guess you'd say like keep the meat from sticking, kind of like to lube it. And then he also did the same thing with the mushroom, which I like mushroom. Not everybody likes mushroom, but then you could do that, and you could eat the stuff after if you wanted, or you could put it with the meat, or you could do whatever. But they had pretty good. They had a really good honey barbecue there too. A honey barbecue chicken that was really good too. So we ate all that stuff. But what are we doing? Oh, let me do this real quick. Let's grab. Let's see, Ansible hosts. Oh, that's just hosts nowadays. They got rid of all the extra stuff. And let's move that over just a little bit because it's off the screen. And we'll go Ansible all -m shell -a uptime. Just see if all our servers are back up. Well, we knew Kafka was down. Hayes, we're not working too hard right now. We're checking out the system after the reboot yesterday. Remember we had that full power down. We're doing Coda. Sorry, Chica. I can't even think right now. Will doing Killer Coda. I don't even know. And doing the enough to complete the lab. I think if you do the labs today, yeah. So if you, the lab is right here. So if you want to know what the lab was from today, from the security course, there were 2 labs within the lab, and the 2 labs were basically jailing a user and all the processes to jail a user, and then it was building a bastion. So yeah, if you did those 2 things and then kind of wrote out what you understood about them, that would be enough to do the lab portion. Now there's always, so for you guys that are doing the courses with us, there's always the actual worksheet, and the worksheet is what you actually have to fill out. This is what you're doing for, like, I kind of try to put everything that's a deliverable in here. So the worksheet is your discussion questions, your definitions and terminology of things, your notes if you have them, if you want to take any of your own notes or terms or useful tools, and then the lab assignment is basically a component of it, and then digging deeper in here. Hayes, if you were gone yesterday, you did miss down in the Discord the stuff, but today I recorded it. So it is in there's a recording. If you guys go here and then you go to beginner, start here, there is the playlist for the Linux Security Engineering course. And I spent an hour this morning recording Unit 4. So all this stuff that we're going over right now, well, all this stuff, I went over pretty heavy a little while ago. And then it gives you some other stuff. Again, the digging deeper for you guys, this is always a section that is not required. It's just extra stuff that you could go do. If you said, oh, those 6 or 8 hours of work that we did wasn't enough, I want to go spend a few more hours, that's what the digging deeper section is. But it's to give you a little more thoughts around kind of, excuse me, what's going on. All right, so the systems are up. Kafka was already down, so we're fine with that. Let's do one more shell here, and then sudo -i to become root, and then in here I'm going to do psef. Actually, we'll do it like this. Psef will awk. Whoops. Print $1 sort unique -c. All right, I just want to see who's on, and it looks like there's no. Like, what I was looking for in here was if there were any any of the MC Hammer users, or any of the other users from Streamer. It doesn't look like we have any, so nobody's reconnected since yesterday, basically. I can go check the users here as well. So the system came back up yesterday. We've got logging, looks good. We can see the logging of users failing out of our system forever. Let's make sure there's no real users in here. It's all just bullshit. Okay. And then we can go see the security systems running. We can see the servers don't have an uptime. They're not quite to a day yet. This was our drop off of all the users out of the system yesterday when the power outage happened, right here. And then you can see the CPU of them building themselves back up. And then Ranger Cam, that's Ranger down there being lazy. I can still see he's breathing, so that's good. He's an old dog. We have our connection from yesterday where these were the deploy steps. These were the things that went into this week. So this is kind of as I was doing my own outlines here, these were me adding things. And I actually made this shareable yesterday. So I can copy this and I can drop this in here for you guys. And you guys could jump in the same lab with me right now. So, or not even lab, sorry, just in the notes here. So you guys can jump in here and mess with everything. And the next week, so let's start, because I got to start planning for next week, right? I always got to be a little ahead. So next week is going to be updating systems and patch cycles. So we're going to go into the life cycle of systems. By the way, I can see people's hands up there, people moving around. We're going to look at the life cycle of a system, patch cycles. I'm probably going to build pulp. I'm going to show how to create a repo and share it out via HTTPD. That's very important kind of little process. If you're going to, especially if you're running air-gapped systems, you need to have a facility internally where if you have software, people can download it and use it. So we're going to, I'll set that up. So I'll build pulp out for the lab, probably so you guys can just connect to a pulp server and then see the life cycle. Then you'll probably create a repo locally and share it out and do that. And then we'll probably look into securing that repo, which will be back over here, right? So some of you were like, oh, Scott didn't make us do STIGs this week. Now we're back in the Stig viewer. Now we're over here in Apache, right? And now, and none of you guys have had to do this yet with me, but now there's 47 rules for hardening Apache, right? HTTPD process. And how do we do that in the system? So here we go. Right? Starting to look at how we set things and how we configure them. And we'll probably even turn some of this into an Ansible playbook, maybe. There's other tools out there that harden these, but I might make it a little thing so you can see. All right. All right, guys. Man, I'm tired. So what's a lab for this week? Probably building Pulp out. If you guys have never seen Pulp, looks like this. I think it's Pulp 3 that we're on now, Pulp project. Pretty sure we're on Pulp version 3, but it's an open source tool. It's to fetch, upload, organize, and distribute software packages on-prem or in the cloud. And really what it is this, guys. If I just go here, right, and I go to one of my systems. Let's go to Hammer. Let's go to like Hammer 24. I don't think nobody's on any of them right now, but nobody's on it. All right. And if I do a DNF repo list, if now I know this isn't necessarily like us talking about this, but this is what next week will be about. These are all defined locally in the machine in one of two ways. They either come packaged with the system, or I added them later, or me or an admin or some process or whatever added them later. But it's down in Etsy yum.repos.d or DNF. I think it's DNF repos too. And in here, this is where they're actually turned on or off, right? So we can go turn off, like I was showing you guys, I can turn off this EPEL Cisco OpenH 264. I can just grep in here for Cisco from anything. And there's the repo. Well, also I could look here. And then I could VI EPEL-Cisco. And I see that the repo is enabled here. And then it's not enabled here, and it's not enabled here. Okay, so it's only enabled right here. I can disable that repo and not see it anymore. So R0 escape :WQ. If I DNF repo list again, you shouldn't see that anymore. I go turn it back on, R1, escape :WQ, should be back. So that's where our system defines those. I just proved it right now, both to myself and to you guys. But this will be a big part of that. So then, if I had a package, I'll probably put like a ISO or something, like a little ISO out here in the like lab section. So then you guys can pull down it to your local machine. And you'll be able to unpackage it and do a create repo and turn it into a repo that can then be seen by your system here. Because there's different ways that you can have repos. You can have repos either remotely over HTTP or HTTPS somewhere in the system. Or you can have local repos which are defined by files that are local. So you can do that either way, and we'll look into that. Chacode, you said you can't see the drawing, just a blank screen. Somebody might have wiped it. In here, you don't see the drawing? So you might have to do like a control and back out. And then also, if it's blank, you guys have to, it'll come up in light mode. You got to change the theme to dark mode. So that's the other thing. But people are on there, or well, somebody was on there earlier. It looks like they left, but yeah, you guys can see that all in there. So. And then it's funny, I had a question earlier. I had to ignore it because I was busy with the recording, but I had a question about installing Arch Linux. That was earlier when I was on streaming. And I would tell you that I don't necessarily, I think I've only ever installed Arch once. I would tell you guys, if you're interested in that stuff, go find that and get into the Discord. And there's a lot of people down there that use Arch and can tell you all about it. For me, you won't hear me talk about Arch much because it's not an enterprise product. Like, nobody's using it in the enterprise. No team. Like, if we went and looked for jobs right now, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't find a single job maybe in the U.S. where somebody's like, hey, I need a Linux engineer that does Arch. I don't think you're going to find that anywhere. You definitely aren't going to find more than like 5 in the whole U.S. So the reason not to shit on it, it's just not an enterprise product. So when I tell you guys that the goal of our group is to get you guys into doing stuff professionally, it's not that you can't play around with Arch. It's just Arch is just that. It's a thing for you to play around with, and I don't know, maybe have your own desktop with it or something, I guess, if you want to do that. But it's not an enterprise tool. So anyways, that's not my thoughts on it. That's just the enterprise, right? So all right, anyways, so there you go. You guys have that. We will probably build some pulp in the lab, so we'll be back in our system. And yeah, pulp can pull down stuff, because again, these packages, let me make something else clear if I'm not. Let's say like epel.repo. This is going to download from this link right here. Yeah, here's the meta link right here, because there's no base link. So extra packages for enterprise Linux is going to come from https mirrors.fedora project meta link repo and then whatever. Well, guess who controls that? Not me. So if somebody updates bzip or gzip from version like 7.7 to 7.8, do I have any control over that? No. And if I'm trying to install gzip 7.7 because that's what I have in my security packages list for my security team, and I'm doing it off of this, and they change what the packages are, I can't get at that package anymore. Not unless they have some lower version that they keep, but they're only going to keep so many back versions, right? They're only going to push up so much stuff. So I tell you guys, when you're building stuff, you can't build stuff and update stuff willy-nilly out in the world in a thing that you don't control, because then you can't validate, you can't warranty that it's going to work as an engineer. So what we do is we pull, so I can pull all the packages on a May 1st. I can pull all the packages down into my repository, and now I no longer point at this EPEL. I point at my own version of the EPEL from May 1st. And then now I do my testing and I validate and I do all my system stuff, and now I have a locked-in version that's not going to change for my servers in my environment. It's almost the concept of air gapping, but for packages. And then now all my systems point at packages. If your systems are pointing out to package managers out in the world or something, that is like one of the biggest nightmares of administration and engineering that I can think of, because you have no idea what's on your servers. And a server today will have a different set of packages than tomorrow, and something doesn't work to unpackage something right, or something doesn't work to, I don't know, anything. Like anything that could happen. And you can't even troubleshoot it because you can't go get the old version anymore. So it's a nightmare. We do it in the home lab because, again, the home lab's just the home lab. But when we actually do stuff in production, we have some type of server. By the way, Pulp is part of Satellite. So if you guys have ever used Red Hat Satellite, it's Pulp, it's Foreman, it's Catello, it's what other tools? Pulp, Foreman, Catello. Used to be all MongoDB on the back end, but then they had to change it over to Postgres because the Mongo went to that server-side license model, and Red Hat couldn't go there anymore. So, anyways, this is what we're gonna do, and we'll dev test, and then as we're ready, move up into prod and that kind of stuff. So, we can run it in a container. We may even do that for fun, but we'll probably, we might play with it in a container and see what that looks like. But the most important thing to understand will be that we are pulling down a lockdown version that doesn't change. I can test against it. I can validate it in my lower environments. And when I'm ready to roll forward into production, I'm able to do that. So, yeah. I got no problem. Like, Hayes, I try to tell people, like, I have no problem with Arch. I have no problem with NixOS. I have no problem with any of these things. Like, if somebody's doing zero Linux today and they're like, Scott, I need to get into Arch, I would be like, that's wonderful. Like, getting in command line and being confident at, like, moving around like that, probably the number one thing you can do to get yourself into this space. That being said, once you've been doing Linux for like, let's say 6 months or a year, and you're like, okay, I need to get a job. And then you go and look at all the jobs, and there's some canonical jobs, so there's probably a little bit of Ubuntu. And all the rest of the jobs are going to be Red Hat, Rocky, some SLES or SUSE, but mostly SLES because that's SUSE Linux Enterprise Server. But I can't. I'm going to tell you, I don't think you could find. I'd be willing to bet somebody couldn't find and drop down in Discord 5 jobs that run Arch in the U.S. I'd be willing to bet that right now. Because I don't think anybody's running Arch in production. I've never seen it. Never even heard of it. Somebody the other day said that they had some NixOS running on a government project that they were doing, but it was down in the dev environment so that they could spin through some stuff. And I see good use cases for it because it's a very locked down OS. You can't. It's immutable. It's an immutable OS, in fact, and it sounds awesome, but it's just not. Yeah. Well, Xshunya, the Arch is probably great to learn on. You get to do a lot of building stuff from scratch, and you get to do a lot of hands-on stuff. But when a company asks you, have you ever set up networking, and you say, oh, I've only done it on Arch, they're going to be like, I really need you to know some Red Hat. You might have to go back and look at, some, and you can do a lot of Red Hat and Rocky. So if you said Rocky or CentOS or even Fedora, they'd be like, okay, this guy at least understands some of these basic pieces or whatever. So. All right. Anyway, so we can Podman run, pick all of our stuff, and then play with it. And I don't have existing data directory, so that's fine. Reset the admin password. Go in there and probably pull. We'll definitely use the CLI to connect with it. We're probably not going to do anything via GUI. That wouldn't make any sense. Let me go look at the workflows and it's interesting that they went to that. That's some SLES stuff. All right. So we can connect to it and do some API calls on it, and it looks pretty straightforward. Doesn't look like anything that'll trip us up too much in the project space. A big part of it, though. Let me see if I have this. I don't know if I drew this for you guys before. I know I've chicken scratched this, but I don't know if I have drawn. I don't know if I've drawn. Let's go see if we can find. Streaming. I think it's under images or drawings. No. Bunch of Linux stuff. No, I want to see if we have. I don't know where I would have put this. Hold on. Open recent. Drawings Excalidraw. So ProLUG presentations and then drawing Excalidraw. So Linux group, ProLUG presentations, and then Excalidraw. All right, here we go. I think switch this around. This might be bright for a second. Did I not draw that? I thought I did. I do not see it. This was example of patching, but this was not. This is not the patching process that I want to show you guys. So I'll get that drawn up for the course. This is not the right one. That's a different methodology of how I would update any node that needed to install like OFED, GPFS, and Slurm, which is a common like stack that we might draw and run inside of like an HPC cluster or something. And then yeah, again, I don't know. Don't save. I don't know what's going on with any of that. I thought I had this. Hold on. Oh, this is gonna bug me. I thought I drew this out a while back. Dungeoning. No, we had a bunch of stuff that we were doing. Container build. No, it wasn't any of this. No. Some patching. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I put it, so we'll worry about it later. Yeah, there we go. Who knows? What's the ranger doing? That dog. So yeah, anyways, we'll get into it. We're almost halfway done. So the next lab will be about updating systems and patch cycles, and we'll talk about the way that we patch things and the way that we get them. Because you know, you have some kind of risk profile in an organization. You have some kind of security type standard. How often you have to update things. These are all heavily, like our patching cycles are heavily based off of CVEs. And some of you guys know this last week, we almost lost all the CVE database. MITRE.org runs that and has a, like the government has contracts with them, and it was scheduled to, it would have still been available, but no new CVEs were going to be registered. And that would have been, interesting because like literally the whole security industry, the whole one, there's nobody I know that's not using the CVE database, and no new CVEs were going to be getting published in there. So that was going to be, I mean, even like private teams that just do, you know, security testing against packages and stuff like that, they publish all to the CVE database. That's what those teams all do. So it was going to be weird that they weren't going to take any new ones. And I think on Wednesday they secured like 5 more weeks of funding or something. So that's an interesting near miss in the big scheme of things from like a security standpoint, because that's how we know how to, you know, secure our systems, and that's how we know what our vulnerabilities are. That kind of stuff is the common vulnerabilities and exposures database, right? So, all right. But this is what I'm working on for the next week then. That's the labs. The topics will be something like this. I'll say the toppings will be, the topics, not the toppings, will be patch cadence between dev, test, you know, QA, prod, and that can be anything, man. It does not have to be dev, test, QA, and prod. It could be all kinds of other things in there as well. Then we're gonna say, so your patching cadence, but even before we patch, I guess that might be a 2 thing. The first thing we might do is downloading and securing the repo data, like So when do we do this? When do we move forward through the life cycles? So one example of this might be like first of the month, an old Bone Thugs and Harmony song, right? First of the month. And then when do we move through the cycles? The life cycles might be, the first, it goes to dev. And then maybe after a few weeks, after maybe the third week, goes to test and QA. And then the fourth week of the month, let's move to, and then fourth week of month goes over to goes to prod, right? And that's when your prod patching happens, and then that's when you do your patching. So applying patches, and this will be automation is best, right? And typically will then be so I'll have roles in playbook. So and then my roles tend to look like this. If we go over here, so I will do stuff like this. Let's do ls-l here. My roles will tend to be in this order right here, not in that order. Come back here. And it'll look something like this. So roles in the playbook would be something like pre-check, patch, and then we would have probably our reboot if we had the ability to reboot, or not, and there's decisions that are going to be automated inside of Ansible for that. And then we'll do maybe app validation if we had different apps that we're supposed to be on, and then we'll have final validation as well for the system. Did it reboot? Did that kind of stuff happen? And then we bring with our, that little stamp that I always show you guys. So you guys that have been around our Discord have seen it every day if you watch our Sandbox channel. Something that just stamps back to us how everything's going. I don't have a check in here that I do need to have because I apologize, guys. I should not be this tired. I did not sleep well last night, and then I went and wrestled this morning. So downloading and securing the repo data. When do we do this? First of the month. When do we move forward through the life cycles? First dev, first to dev, and then the first week. And then third week goes to test QA, fourth week goes to prod. So we call that like bake-in time, or just testing time, whatever kind of testing we want to do. And strictly speaking, right, like for people that do especially like dev pipelines and stuff, we shouldn't have to, like, technically it should just be do all the tests and then move it forward. But we tend to time bound things so that you will find when you start getting into like operations world that sometimes operations are the stepchildren. And you say, what the hell do you mean by the stepchildren? Anybody know the story of Cinderella? What was the primary problem in the story of Cinderella? Does anybody remember? Okay, I'm going to tell you. It's that the stepsister got treated like shit by the regular daughters, right? If you guys remember, like Cinderella was the stepdaughter, so she got treated like shit. Well, you as an admin are not going to be the person who makes the company money. You're not going to be the person sitting in all the meetings with all the big wigs and doing big sales numbers that make the company happy. If you're in operations, a lot of times you're costing the company money. So, knowing that, you are going to have a hard time pushing on stuff sometimes. So when I put a schedule together like this, what I do is I give my management and like the IT operations team management the ability to go push on those you know, and I'm going to do it in air quotes, rock stars, the normal sisters, and say, hey, look, guys, the train rolls out on the first week. You know, you have this time to do your testing for all your little dev teams and all your guys that make all the cool apps that make all the money for our company, or sell stuff, or whatever it is that your company does. As operations people, you are a cost center. This is an important thing to understand. You don't, you know, you're not the one making the company money. Now, if you go to a company like Lockheed Martin, like I tell people, when I worked at Lockheed Martin, like they high-fived you when you came in every day because you were literally making the company money. You were the product as the engineer. You were making stuff for the government. And it's a good thing to know where you're at in a company. When you're on an operations team, you're typically a cost center. You're not making the company money. Where the reason I show all that and the reason I talk about this is because we would have teams be like, we just can't take stuff down this weekend. And we're like, all right, well, here's the schedule. The trucks are rolling. If you guys have ever heard me say that. The things are rolling out at this time. Like I used to tell my boss, I'm like, look, it's like a subway car, man. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been on a subway or a train or something. That door is eventually closing and that thing's moving whether you're in it or not, right? And if you're in it, it's going to go, and they're going to push you out and it's going to close and then the train's going to leave on schedule. And that's what we have to do. We have to, because otherwise people will just push back forever and you'll never get from like the popular teams that are again, you're the stepchild. They're the ones that are getting treated right. Again, I'm using Cinderella because I think most people are familiar with that story. You are the ones that are going to get, you know, you're going to get passed over. And then it's funny because the security team's going to come to you and be like, why isn't the stuff patched? And you're like, I'm not in charge of any of this. The team owns it. And they're like, yeah, but you own the patching. And you're like, So this is the way to deconflict that, right? Because then you could just say, well, they didn't get on the train. We gave them all the opportunities. We made the automation. They could have even have the bridge kick this stuff off. So I'm gonna build this in. I've been meaning to make a lab out of this anyways, this stuff in here where, let's go back to roles and then let's go like pre-check. What did we check in, yeah, okay, so one of the things I check in here, this is one of my favorite little checks. Some of you guys probably have heard me talk about this. In here, I go and I check my server by a bunch of like base things that I know about the server. And so my servers in the home lab, even though I haven't touched them in a long time, they have these what we call Ansible facts that are local facts, and then I've set them on those servers. We'll make that as part of this lab. So the pre-check will go, it'll group all the servers by whether or not they're rebooting, whether or not all these things happen. Then we'll go into the patching where we'll patch them. We'll come down to the reboot section, and in the lab on Killer Coda, you won't be able to reboot. So we'll do everything else and pretend to reboot, but we won't actually reboot the server. We'll probably just, you know, set a fact that says I would be rebooting now or something, and we'll only do that if the server was supposed to reboot. And then we would come down here, and the app validation is the application on top of the server working. And then the final validation, I actually think I need to switch these. Hold on, did I have these? I don't think so. I think the final validation, it was on the server level, was like the server backup, did the server patching go well? And then the app validation is after it, which is weird because final validation seems like it would be last. But app validation is really the last thing I care about, because if these 10 things were web servers and I patched them, and they come back up and they're not running web for all 10 of them, I got a problem, right? But the last validation is what does that server have on it? Did it have a database? Should port 3306 be open? Was it a web server? Should HTTPD be open? What's our final validation of the system? So I'll play with that. I think we'll do app and then final. This can be, we'll call this server validation and then app validation. That'll make more sense then, because the server will be, did the server come back up? Did the server reboot properly? Yada, yada, yada. And then app validation will be that last piece. Is the thing that the server exists to do, is it doing that thing? Like the one before is, does the server exist and is it up? Has it done the patching and stuff? And then the last one will be the app validation. So, okay, so we'll write that, and that, I have that all in here. This is my variable checks, and then then like patching is easy. I bet if we go look in here, it's just patch. Yeah, just make sure. So this is actually a funny thing here. If you had excludes, I'll probably include this as part of it. Yeah, that'll be a good thing to show. So I'll use applying patches example from home from P01. Lab, and so we'll do a lab over in Killer Coda. And we'll use my P01 Jump-O-1. So it'll be a little bit different than the yum.conf. But the reason I did this is actually, it's funny. I actually had to do this at a company. So we would leave a lot of excludes. So let me see if I have one here, because I might have an example of it. That's the yum.conf. You typically have, look at this. So I have an exclude because when I patch my P01 Jump-O-1 server, if somebody were just like running like monthly patches that were non-kernel, I would not want the kernel to be patched, and I would not want Gluster to be patched. However, when this happens, what we do is we copy off, we copy off the yum.conf that's there, and we date it with today's date. Then we change the line exclude right here to be exclude with an exclamation mark or a pound sign at the front. So we take away all the excludes. We're patching everything today. This is when we do like full patching of systems, and then we patch the server up, and then we move that back in place the way that we originally had it. It's a nice little way to do it. Before and then that what that does is that doesn't affect whatever is there in the yum.conf for now, because we saved it off, and then we just put it back in place when we're done. So save it off, modify it, do your patching, move it back. So, and also on the servers, we'll make a when condition here when the server is able to be rebooted. So if the server's in a rebooting mode from our original pre-check, then we'll do this on there. If not, we won't do it to it. So the server will only get that if it needs to. So then at the end we have this one of my favorite little things I've ever written up, and this will actually have to be a little bit in this will be a little bit different in Ansible or in Ubuntu. I'll have to figure out how to do this different. Let's see what's in here. How do we reboot servers? Well, there's not a grubby inside of Ubuntu. It's a Red Hat command. I don't know the equivalent over there, but I'll have to figure out the kernel version. I can do the kernel version check, which is, well, I have a different way to do that check, but basically grubby will check if the default kernel is the same as the kernel that's there, and then it'll set the system to reboot if it needs to. So rebooting will only happen if the server needs to reboot. If it doesn't need to reboot because there was no kernel changes, it won't reboot right here, because we set that to false, and it only runs if it's set to true, and it only gets set to true if the kernel is not the one that it's wanting to go to in the next reboot. That's what the grubby default kernel, watch this. You guys have never seen this. This is a cool little command. It'll tell me the default kernel that the system wants to go to, and I can compare that to the kernel that the system's on, and I can say, oh, okay, this system doesn't want to go to a new kernel. This system doesn't need to reboot right now. That's the logic to it, right? There are other ways to do that. There's a thing called needs restarting. And you can do it with like a -A. Oh, I guess -Y I think is the other one. So needs restarting. So let's go look at it again. What's the help? Reboot is probably not necessary. And then we echo $? And we see that if the reboot is required, it would be an exit code 1. If the reboot is not required, we get an exit code 0. So we can run that needs restarting like that, and then we can capture in Ansible, we can do a register of the variable, and then if the exit code is 0, we know that we don't need to reboot the server, so we wouldn't execute. Where is it? We wouldn't set this fact unless we would only set this fact when 1 is in needs restarting as the return code, right? You see that? Or the exit code. We call RCs, so return codes, right? Inside of Ansible anyways. So anyway, so that's that. So this will be what I work on for next week, which will be updating systems and patch cycles. Anybody can update a server, DNF install or DNF update or app-y update and upgrade. I mean, I think literally anybody can just patch a server. That's fine for home lab stuff. But when you want to get into doing this production in a company and you're looking for control, you have to control the upstream repos that you're pointed at. You can't be just pointed out at the world. So you got to control where your packages are coming from. And then you have to have life cycles for how those get released into your environment. And then, again, DNF-y or whatever against a bunch of servers in a shell loop would be okay. That's the way we used to do it. But what would be even better is we'll do this Ansible. We'll pre-check all our servers up front. We'll see any of them that are missing, and we'll put it in a report. We'll patch the servers that we need to. We'll decide if they need to reboot, and we won't actually reboot them in the lab, but we'll pretend to reboot them for fun. Then we'll do server validation. Did the server come back up? Is the server good? Compare that to the original list in our report too. Because I've told you guys this. One of the worst things that can happen is you patch 1,000 servers, and then at the end of the night you have 17 that are still down, and you're like, were those already down? And you and your team are sitting there, and it's 2 a.m, and you want to get off the call because you've done everything you need to, but you guys don't remember if those 17 servers were up or down already. Well, you go look it up, and you find that 10 of them were already decommissioned earlier in the week. Okay, cool. They were off because they were in this cooling off phase of 3 weeks that we use in the company maybe to make sure that we don't just need to turn a server back on. And okay, cool. The server's still there. But then we get all the way, there's 1 or 2 servers that we don't know. And guess what you get to do? If you rebooted all your servers and you did all your patching and stuff and everything else came up, but there's 2 servers that are in limbo or flux or whatever, well, you get to stay up until those are fixed. And you go, what if you turn them on and the next, so now you're going into Sunday morning and then on Monday you go into work and that dev team's like, hey, we actually decommissioned those last week and turned them off. I'm surprised those are back on. And you're like, mother effer, right? But you weren't going to call them out on a Saturday night just to check. So this is where checking things up front becomes, I'm trying to show you guys the things that I learned the hard way over time from patching and running through servers. So that's going to be what next week's security engineering stuff is, right? We're going to dig kind of deeper into that, and then we'll control our life cycle of patches in our system. Satellite is a way that companies do it, but Pulp is a way to do it for free, so we'll do it with Pulp, and then we'll look at what our cadence would be, and we'll research that, and then we'll actually do the applying of the patches, because, again, there's a lot of value to doing that right and correctly and stuff. So I'll build that all up too. So, all right. And let's see. So that's that. Really, I just wanted to hop on and give you guys the opportunity if you had any questions about the Linux group or the courses that we're running or any of those kind of things. Let you guys know where to go. By the way, if you're in our Discord, if you're ever in any Discord, you go up here to the top and there's all the events that are coming up. And all of our events are free. We've got the writer's room it looks like that's in about 5 hours, so that'll be in your local time there. That's being run by Treasure and some of the other guys. They are building the books for the courses. The books are free online. You can just go download them. There's a Linux admin course study group on Wednesday. So if you're doing the Linux admin course and you need a little more help or you need to spend a little more time with people talking about stuff, that's free as well. You can just go hop in there. There's a Bash study group every Saturday, so you can go to that. And then the Linux admin course is at 3 p.m. on Saturdays. That's my time. That's Pacific time right now. But you guys can, I said Pacific. But that's, that'll show in your time if you guys go there. And then there's the security engineering course, which we recorded Unit 4 for today. Like 4 time. Anyways, so that's all that. Other than that, I guess if there's no questions or anything, I'll probably go ahead and stop this share. Yep. This will be my, these are kind of where my notes are for how I'm building the course and what my kind of outlines look like. And then I just kind of move these and ship these down into the labs and stuff that you guys kind of work on. So, blank canvas instead of your content. Yeah, I just stopped the share, so it probably doesn't work anymore. I did just stop it. So, also, if you're doing it inside of Twitch, you got to pull the whole thing. It just the link won't work in Twitch. You got to pull it out and go drop it in a new tab. So that's your risky click of the day, whatever that is that I dropped in chat. That's funny. Yeah, so I'll probably hop off of here, but I wanted to give you guys an option to kind of hang out and look at some of the stuff because I just want to relax for the rest of Easter and kind of hang out. So if you guys need anything, hit me up on Discord. We got a lot of people in there that can help you out too if you're stuck inside of the course or you're stuck somewhere and you don't know where to go on the course or any of that kind of stuff. So, all right, but I will drop off here. We won't raid anybody. We don't have that many people today, but if you guys got anything that you want to ask, again, best place is always down in the Discord. So, all right, I will talk to you guys later. Take care.